Hello again. Special weekend edition of Instant Grace here on Grace Archie with Jim Babka. I am Jim Babka, and I want to talk to you about how to watch the media. So, are you a victim of opposition research? Are they manipulating you? Are they making you think things you would not have thought otherwise? So, here's the deal it happens with Vivek Ramaswamy, who is running for president of the United States on the Republican side. And a week ago, a little more than a week ago, he appeared in a Fox News debate on television. And then, by all accounts, his performance was the most electrifying. It was the one that drew criticism. It was also the one that drew a lot of praise. And a lot of people thought he was going to get a surge out of the deal. And he did. He got a ton of attention. They talked about how he had momentum. That was last week. That was so long ago. Now, this past week that we're just finishing up now, all the news is starting to be bad. What happened? How did he go from just days ago being on top of a cloud to now being all over the place with headlines like this one? Friends of Jeffrey Epstein have given more than $100,000 to Vivek Ramaswamy's 2024 run, even as he demands full transparency of disgraced financiers' clients. Bullet. Glenn Dubin and his wife are major donors to Vivek Ramaswamy's campaign. The billionaire gave 100,000 to a super PAC linked to the biotech entrepreneur. And Eva Anderson Dubin once dated Jeffrey Epstein, and they remained close. In fact, the article goes on to say, this is from the Daily Globe over in the UK, that she gave evidence in support of Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. So if you get this, he's now tied in with Epstein. You know, he's critical of Epstein. He says everything should be released, but now suddenly he's tied in. And this wasn't the only headline. We can give you two or three more of these kinds of things, four or five actually, that came out last week about Ramaswamy's previous life and business, his positions, his inconsistencies, maybe someplace where he lied on a media appearance, and so on. Like all of a sudden, the attack dogs came out. How did this happen all of a sudden? And this is why I ask, are you being manipulated? And the answer is almost certainly yes. I see people, some people sent me a headline this week, and I looked at the headline and they were like, oh, suddenly I'm a little cooler on Vivek. Now, I don't support Vivek, just to be clear. I don't support any of the current GOP candidates, to also be clear. This is not about who you support or don't support. It's just about this phenomena where somebody is up one day a lot and down the next, which is typically how presidential campaigns have run. The only person that's been able to escape this trajectory is none other than, well, you know who, but he's kind of orange and he lives in Florida and he's got indictments. And what I want you to understand is that there is this process within political campaigns, people who specialize in a skill called opposition research. It's like playing detective. They know where to find bodies that are buried. It's a lot of work. They pull out information, they find out things, and then they hand this information over to campaigns that figure out how to use this data in an attack mode. When you give money to a political campaign, a successful political campaign, it always includes a opposition research component. That's part of what you're paying for. And that opposition research will affect messaging. It will also affect how the campaign reaches out, both through earned media, what you call the press, or how they reach out in paid media, advertising, the ways that they have to get their ads on it. You will see it influence both of those things. And it will also influence debate prep, how a candidate will approach and handle a debate. And that's all that's happening here. I want you to understand the media, the regime media, is notoriously lazy, and they're almost always pitted or involved in some kind of side, and they're taking information in. There's a whole story that could be told, for example, about Ron DeSantis and his rise in the polls in the first place, and how he became positioned kind of second place, a very distant second at this juncture, to Donald Trump. But the Daily Caller and all the various big personalities over there, Dave Rubin, Fox, elements of Fox News had already decided that they wanted to elevate this candidate. They were already involved and actively doing this. If you were watching any other programming, you would have been able to detect and pick this up if you knew to look for it. And now people who are placed with Nikki Haley, I'm guessing more than likely, have access to these same media figures Don't know for sure which one candidate is. Could be more than one campaign, but that's the one I'm betting on. Have an opposition research, and they're handing this information over to the regime media, who then reports it to you, and the attacks begin. And suddenly, this guy who's got some electricity and some energy behind him, whoa, hold the phone. We didn't know that. Now, this is a completely valid process, completely legitimate. And if you're going to be picking a candidate this way, you should know that, it's like a job interview. We should know the bad and the good. And this opposition research performs a First Amendment service, the type that would be defended by James Madison and Federalist Number 10. The solution to messaging you don't like is to put out messaging you do like. You get it out there and it competes, and that's how things settle out. And that's good. But if we're going to handle this information correctly, we probably should also be aware of where it's coming from, what the motive for it coming, and how you're being controlled. And you should have some sense when you're watching the TV of kind of how the sausage is being made, what's happening behind the scenes, and what it is that spin doctors wish for you to think. So I just want to clue you in on this, because this ends up being the kind of stuff that ends up being the fodder for some of the ugliness and debate that goes on amongst us. And it happens all campaigns. This is a Republican phenomenon, Democratic phenomenon. It's all the campaigns have opposition research at work, and they're feeding this information to the media behind the scenes. And then it makes it out to you as if it's normal, legitimate news, when the real source of it is one or more of the opposing campaigns. It's knowledge that's valuable if we're going to go into a world and try to handle things with grace. It's good to know in advance how the conflict machine is at work, and to make sure that we are parsing this information in the best possible way. I'm Jim Babka. This is Grace Archie. Thanks for listening to this segment of Instant Grace.